Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 54 of Cute Little Love Letters, and this one is titled An Enlightened Chat. While you and Denki were walking to school, your mum had just left your place and had walked down to the local produce markets to get some things when she ran into dear old Mr Furuo, the coffee merchant from the Saturday markets. "Good morning, dear," Mr Furuo greeted politely. "And how is everyone in the household this morning?" "Good morning, Mr Furuo," your mum greeted back with a gentle smile. "Everyone is well. I hope you're keeping well. Your aura is calm and bright as always." "Ah, why, thank you kindly," he said, his memory being jogged by your mum's words as soon as she mentioned aura. "Listen, I hate to speak of rabbits' tails and whispers through the fence holes, but I ask out of loving concern for your daughter, who I consider my own," he said. "But on Saturday just gone, she appeared at my stall just past the midday sun and bore a rather unsettled countenance. She was with her suitor, and to the best of my abilities I assessed him and did not think that he was the cause of her distress, but I do hope she is okay now, and I wanted to inquire as to her well-being. I know she's close with you and your wonderful husband. Did she speak of what disturbed her so?" Your mum, feeling his deep concern and compassion for you, sighed gently. "Without disturbing karmic influence and inviting energies to shift," your mum started, choosing her words wisely. "There was an incident on Saturday that left her rather shaken, and we are still looking into the matter, but I can honestly say that she is well and she is safe." "Begging your pardon," Mr Furuo said, "and I mean not to pry, but if there's any way I could be of assistance?" He left it open-ended, and your mum hesitated for a second. She knew that as a human, matters concerning Fae folk, dark or enlightened, wouldn't have immediate repercussions on her, since the Fae world usually kept to themselves and separated from the human world. She was not concerned about speaking about them, as if they somehow overheard they would not react, but she was also aware that she was married to a Fae and had a Fae daughter, and if it were overheard that she was discussing Fae law or mentioning Fae truths, this could incite unwanted attention should the wrong Fae catch wind. "I need to tread carefully here, and must not use any keywords, and especially not use the word fox fury," she thought. She smiled at Mr Furuo and decided to take a roundabout approach to replying to his comment. "I do so appreciate your compassion towards the well-being of my daughter," she said with a small curtsy. "I am aware that you have been working the Saturday markets for a long time, before I even arrived." "Yes," he said with a little chuckle. "I remember the first time you came. You and your dear husband were married but a week, and it was the rainy season." Your mum chuckled lightly. "Yes, I do remember," she said with a smile. "I remember helping your man with his dear plants. They were well watered that day," he said emphatically. Your mum giggled again. "And then you made us the loveliest coffee and helped dry out our clothes," she added. "And then it was only a few moons later you announced to me the coming of my darling Yin," he said, almost tearing up. "Oh, how joy filled my soul that day when it finally came and you presented to me your little angel. I remember those few times she was unsettled as a youngling, and you allowed me the honour of her being tied to my back in the wrap. I would continue to make my coffee and she would sleep soundly. She always settled for me." Your mum smiled fondly at the memories and then switched to her question. "The markets have changed slightly over the years. New people have come. Do you interact much with the new market folk?" she asked, hoping he would mention a person in particular. "Oh yes, I get to hold conversation with a few of them. My coffee stand is always busy, and I'm always ready for a chat," he said with a glint in his eye. He must have read the situation, as he then asked, "Is there anyone in particular you're curious about?" "As you are aware," your mum said kindly, "my heart beats in time with the plants and the stars. The gemstones guide my way, and the light around me protects me. There are a few others at the markets who also walk the same path as I." "Ah," Mr Furuo said knowingly. "There have been a few new spiritual beings at our market. One stands out," he commented, his face growing mildly serious as he connected the dots, and then he looked around the gentle flow of people around the markets there and turned slightly. "Miss, would you mind if we found a more quiet place to have a talk? I believe I have something quite important to tell you. Your mum nodded, silently appreciating that he was taking this seriously and seemed to have understood what she was getting at. Off he walked down to the other end of the markets, where there was a small outdoor cafe, and gestured for your mum to take a seat at one of the chairs there, and then he went to get them both a drink and came back with 2 teas in a relatively short space of time. Miss Lynn, my dear, he said in a low tone, glancing around as he spoke. First, I must confirm, your dear husband is not of human descent, am I correct? Sir, you are indeed correct, your mum replied in a quiet tone, dropping her guard completely now that they appeared to be on the same page. And I must warn that discussing such entities, using names and nationalities, could bring unwanted attention. May we be careful in our discussion? Oh, but of course, he said earnestly. I am not overly familiar with the race of your husband, but I do know enough to get me into trouble if you will excuse such a crass saying, he said apologetically. Excused, your mum said with a gentle nod. The fact that you have already made mention of my husband's race, am I correct in assuming that there is one of them at the markets? The way she said it, the look on her face, and the look he gave her in reply, they both knew that they both understood who and what was being spoken about. Yes, he nodded. She wants nothing to do with humans. I've watched her and she singles out people from time to time. As I mentioned, I've had enough interaction with this kind, the good and the bad, to have hunches that she is one of the bad. She can tell who is not full human, and thus from watching who she calls out to, I can then tell how many of them walk among us. There are a number of them in this world. Your mum nodded. It is as I suspected, she commented, without going into detail, and I am not at liberty to expand, but she said some things that deeply affected my yin. We have since rectified the issue, but were unable to confirm the origin of the one who spoke out. Oh, I see, Mr Furuo replied with a nod. Yes, I have stayed away from her, and I am deeply sorry that I didn't warn sooner. You weren't to know, your mum said gently, placing a hand on his arm. But thank you. I will now warn my husband to keep away from her whenever we are there. She rarely leaves her tent, Mr Furuo said. She would not wander. All the same, your mum said with a knowing look. The pair then slowly wrapped up their conversation, finishing their tea, and then went on their way, but your mum was still thinking over what had been said while she bought the fruit and vegetables for the day. So she is Fox Fury. That's how she knew about their past so well. I do hope talking about it in the open doesn't circle back, she thought. I might need to do an energy cleanse when I get back home. After buying her fruits and vegetables, she paid and left to head home to tell your dad about what had been talked about, but as she was leaving, she suddenly felt a very strong presence nearby and turned her head to look. There were people milling around, but no one appeared to be standing out, and she paused for a second and then slowly kept going. The walk back home was all right, but as soon as she stepped into the foliage of the forest to walk the track to the front steps of the house, she felt it again. Am I being followed? She wondered as she glanced around her. Aside from a few butterflies, she couldn't see anyone or anything else, and she kept going, knowing that once inside the house she could put up a powerful barrier of gemstones and incense to block every type of energy attack, and also to keep unwanted and unsavoury people out. Ooh, was Mum feeling correctly? I think she might have been, but we'll have to wait for chapter 55 and beyond to find out what's going on, but I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 55. See you then!